Hey, travelers. Just stopping by to let you know that this episode that you are about to listen to is one of our older ones, and we were going through some growing pains at this time. But if you would like to start from where we consider our newest era of quality, I would go ahead and jump to episode 54, The American Bigfoot. Either way, enjoy, travelers. Today I have Wesley and Derek. Both have been previous guests on the show. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well.
Topic is Missing 411. Basically, it's a set of books written by one David Paulides. He writes these books outlining the weird and the strange disappearances of people around the country, and they all kind of center around national forests. There's a huge thing going on right now about people disappearing in national forests under strange circumstances and how the government is going out of their way to hide that the people are disappearing.
That's what bothered me the most.
Yeah. David Paulides has kind of taken a step forward and stuck his neck out there to try to combat against what's going on right now, trying to bring all of this information into the limelight about people disappearing. A lot of strange things happening here, guys. David Paulides is a 20-year veteran police officer or police detective. He has published 2 books on the topic of Bigfoot. Does that discredit him in any way, shape, or form for putting out these Missing 411 books? He's also the co-founder of the North American Bigfoot Search. It is a Bigfoot research group. He published 9 Missing 411 books and created 2 Missing 411 documentaries. The story goes like this. David Paulides one day was in a national forest where 2 park rangers approached him. He was researching a string of Sasquatch sightings. They came to him with an issue that they were having. They were concerned about the way that the national forest system was taking care of search and rescue missions or missing people's situations. They wanted to bring this to somebody who might be able to do something with it. They knew that he was a 20-year police detective veteran. They knew that he was into Bigfoot. Mr. Paulides went forth and tried to get some information from the national forest that he was in, unnamed. Ended up finding out that a lot of the employees at that national forest had the same concerns as these 2 park rangers. He wanted to talk with somebody about a list of missing people and find out what the circumstances were. He goes and he tries to get a list. Come to find out, National Park System does not keep a list of missing people at their parks, which is strange, right?
Yeah, it's real strange.
This is an agency that is backed by law enforcement, but they do not keep a list of missing people. I went and did my own little bit of research, and I was curious about this. Come to find out, that is a fact. They do not keep a list of missing people, but they do keep lists such as what big Hollywood productions were filmed on their national forest or animal attacks. Like I was able to find a list of bear attacks at Yosemite National Park. You know,
What the heck? Missing people just considered, well, not my problem anymore, I guess.
You would think that they would cover that since thousands of people are going missing every year.
Yeah.
it gets stranger. Mr. Paulides said, well, how much is it going to cost me to get this list? There are police reports of the missing people situations, but there's no list that just says, these are the people that are missing. This is when they went missing. This is how they went missing. All they have is the reports that they type up after a situation. They came back to Mr. Paulides saying that it was going to cost them roughly, I can't remember the exact number. I don't have it written down, but I know it was high. It was in the double-digit thousands. Then David Paulides kind of expanded his search into all the national parks in the United States. And come to find out, this wasn't just a local situation. This was at every national park in the United States.
The parks themselves don't have a list, but there's also not a list anywhere else that's like not having to do with the National Park Service.
You have to go to the local law enforcement in order to get a list. But the thing is that local law enforcement doesn't have jurisdiction over these national forests because it's run by the Department of the Interior. It's not run by local law enforcement.
It's public land ran by the federal government, essentially, and the local state level or county level law enforcement agencies have no jurisdiction on their land.
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Now, they're brought in to help out, but they technically don't have jurisdiction there and they don't have to track that information. Although they do, they have their own missing people reports and list. that they compile. And if it happens around them, they're involved in it in any way, shape, or form, they do it. But no, the Department of the Interior does not have an active list of missing people in all of their national forests.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't, right?
No.
Where it gets even stranger is that when David Paulides asked for a list of all of the national forest missing people and how much it would cost them, they came back with a number of $14 million or 1.4 million. Wow. That's different. $1.4 million.
I mean, either way you put it, it's still a butt ton of money.
Yeah. One bit that I tried to do some research on today that I wasn't able to get to was that he ended up pulling out the Freedom of Information Act and asking for this stuff.
Makes sense.
And he was denied.
Wait, what was he filing for exactly? Sorry.
He was filing for the list of missing people in the national forest system.
There's multiple occasions where the FBI denied him any sort of information.
It's interesting.
They came back and said, we can't provide you this information. Move along.
It's none of your business, is what they said.
That's pretty much exactly what they said.
That's the exact quote was, you will never get this information on the case.
Now,
it's none of your business.
Some of that information is part of an active case. I can see them telling them, frig off,
Some of these cases are between 50 and 100 years old.
Yeah. That's...
Under the Freedom of Information Act, there's a clause that says that if you're a published author, you can bypass the rejection and still get your information. They came back and said, no, you're not going to get this information because you're not in enough libraries. Nowhere in the Freedom of Information Act does it say anything about how many libraries you have to be in. It just says that you have to be a published author. At the time, he was a published author of 2 books. He's still being rejected under the Freedom of Information Act, even after publishing 9 more additional books on missing 411.
Seems like they're really trying to hide something here.
They're purposely giving him the runaround.
I mean, if anything is going to point to the government covering something up, I mean, it's themselves.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
If they really wanted this to be out, wouldn't they help him and try to get him to publish all these books? It would make sense.
I don't think they want it out, bud.
I'm saying if they wanted it out, they would not be giving him the runaround like this. They wouldn't tell him, you're not going to get this information.
So now that we got the whole beginning of the missing 411 and why it was built and all that stuff, right? We got that out of the way. Let's move on to a little bit about David Paulides himself. I gave you guys a bunch of information about him. He's a 20-year veteran police detective, was heavily into looking for Bigfoot. There are claims out there that this man is pushing these missing 411 agendas to push the agenda on Bigfoot. People are claiming that he is trying to convince the public that a Sasquatch is behind all of these missing people, and that's why he's trying to get it out. Those same people that claim this are the same people that will admit that when they are reading these books, not once does David Paulides come out and say anything about Sasquatch.
And they're saying this as a negative thing against him?
Yes, because he's trying to sell the books.
Because in my eyes, either way, it's bringing awareness to these missing persons cases, right? Whether he thinks it's something related to Sasquatch or not, which you're saying he hasn't even brought up Sasquatch. How can any more awareness being brought to it be a bad thing?
I don't see how it could be a bad thing.
We don't know what it is because a lot of them are unsolved.
Either way, like say, oh, this person went missing in this national park, right? And you're trying to say, oh, I think it was Sasquatch. Maybe people come out of the woodwork, look for a Sasquatch, quote unquote. While they're out there looking for Sasquatch, maybe they find this person's remains. The more people you have out there looking, whether they're looking for a missing person or looking for Sasquatch, the better. I mean, if someone is looking for Sasquatch and they find the remains or, I don't know, a jacket or backpack from someone and they find that it was this person's property or whatever, they're not going to be like, oh, it's not Sasquatch related, so let's just keep looking for Sasquatch. That's just the way I look at it.
There's those people that say that he's just out there to make a buck. You know, he's trying to push the Sasquatch agenda. Nevertheless, and Derek, I think this is where you're going to come in quite a bit here, man, is the strange aspect of some of these missing person cases. Some of these are just completely out of left field, and there's zero explanation for how any of this makes any sense.
Yes, there's no explanation for a lot of these at all. It blows my mind.
David Paulides kind of focuses on those cases where it's like, how can any of this actually happen? He prides his work on removing any cases where suicide is a clear cause, animal attacks are a clear cause, tries to remove the idea of people floating through the woods and killing people. And although a lot of these cases can be easily thought about being solved in a way that involves an animal or another human being, and most of them are still extremely intriguing and leave more questions than answered by the time you're done reading them. Let's talk about the case of Dennis Martin. I've seen tons of cases. I've watched the one free documentary that's on YouTube about the couple stories of missing kids. This one was not part of that. And I found this extremely intriguing. And I kind of want to get everyone's thoughts and ideas about this particular case. On June 14th, 1969, a little boy by the name of Dennis Martin and his father went to go camping in the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. Dennis was with his dad, his brother, and his grandfather. A man approaches Dennis's father, Mr. Martin, and asks if Dennis and his brother can play with his children. Dennis's father agrees, and the kids go off and start playing hide and go seek. Dennis's father and the man who approached him, they strike up a conversation. The whole time, Mr. Martin is watching his son Dennis, and he notices that his son Dennis hides behind a bush and never comes back out. Kids are playing hide and go seek. They're constantly rotating in and out of their hiding places, but he never sees Dennis come out. He goes up to the bush where Dennis was at, looks behind it and inside of it, and doesn't see Dennis. He then takes off in a straight run down the Appalachian Trail, trying to find his son, yelling his name. In the report, it says that he jogged for about 2 miles before he turned back and wanted more help from the park ranger station. At the same time, about 2,000 feet away, another family called the Keys, K-E-Y, Keys, were traveling up a creek close to where the Martin family was camping, and they were trying to hike to find wildlife. They were specifically looking for bears. During their hike, they heard this loud, guttural cry, and the kid of the family pointed out to his parents saying, "Hey, look at that bear that's running across the field up on the hill." The dad says, "That's not a bear. That looks more like a man." That's all you hear about him from that day. But the next day, that same family, the Keys, wake up in their home and they see in the local newspaper about the missing boy. And the father contacts the number that's connected with the article on the newspaper and gets in touch with a FBI agent. He says, "I have some information that might be critical for this case. Can I meet you in the park and I can take you to where I saw this man?" The FBI agent goes, "No, you cannot, but I will meet you outside of the park." Mr. Key meets with the FBI agent and a park ranger from the park. So it's all three of them, and they meet and they have a conversation. Mr. Key leaves the conversation not feeling right about what was going on. So he contacts a local news station. And he has a conversation with channel whatever it is. I can't bring it. I didn't write it down about what he saw and about the sketchy situation involving the FBI agent and the park ranger. So this is day 2. 4 days after the disappearance of Dennis Martin, a U.S. Army Special Ops group flies in on a couple of Hueys onto national park land. And this is well documented too. The biggest name that they can put out is a man by the name of Dwight McCarter, who was the head tracker at the time in the Great Smoky National Park. As the helicopters landed, the Army personnel got out of the helicopters and immediately escorted park rangers and anybody associated with the National Forest System off the land. They refused escorts by the park rangers and set up their own telecommunication network.
Interesting.
There's some big questions there, right? What were they doing there and what were they looking for?
You know, that's crazy. Last episode, we talked about how I told you I was born in West Virginia. I didn't really grow up there, but I did spend my summers there. And during my summers there, there's a lot of unexplored countryside out there, right? Thousands of miles of woods. There's been multiple times where there's been like military units out there. They end up closing off a lot of sections of the forest and whatnot. And it's crazy that like you talk about that because that's basically still happening. There's still groups out there operating, doing who knows what. No idea. I know the Boy Scouts of America bought a huge chunk of property out there and basically gated it all off. There's been multiple times where we've seen like military helicopters and whatnot flying in and out of that property when I was up there. So that's crazy. It really makes you wonder what the hell is going on out there.
And I mean, it gets a little weirder too.
Well, on our way down the rabbit hole.
Right. So David Paulides, now we're talking more current, sometime in the 2000s, 2010s, interviews Mr. Martin, the father of Dennis, at their home, and they're still at the same home that they were in before. He's there to gather information on the missing 411. He pulls Mr. Martin off onto the front porch because Mr. Martin has an agreement with Mrs. Martin not to have this discussion because it upsets the family.
Of course.
Some of the information that Mr. Martin gives him is a little shocking. It was originally agreed upon by Mr. Martin and the National Park Service, who were assisting the search and rescue for his son, that Mr. Martin would be included on any and all information regarding his son and the case. Well, it comes out that Mr. Martin did not know of Mr. Keyes and his family and their sighting of a man running across the field. Months later, when everything settled down and he was able to find out that there was an entire news segment about his son and this family that he had no idea existed, he was furious. He was even escorted off of the national park land by Army personnel and was forced to forfeit the opportunity to look for his son. Paulides finds out from Mr. Martin that the family who saw the man in the woods saw that he was carrying a child over his shoulder. They talk about the 12 other disappearance cases that David Paulides brought up to Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin said, yes, I'm well aware. Mr. Martin added to that conversation that, did you know that every single one of them has the exact same FBI agent tied to them? And it was the same FBI agent who ended up answering the Keyes phone call and having that personal one-on-one with him.
Definitely suspect.
Suspect, right? But check this out. That same FBI agent ended up committing suicide.
Of course.
Of course, right? We're going to take a step back because David Paulides, after talking with Mr. Martin, then went to go talk to Dwight McCarter. Now, if you remember earlier in the story, Dwight McCarter was the lead tracker for the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. He had a little bit more information to add to the Army coming in. He said that they were clearly Green Berets, and after Mr. Paulides asked Carter what he believed happened to Dennis Martin at the time, Mr. McCarter said that he believes that Dennis was abducted. That's pretty much all that I have. Okay, that's the strangeness. But I have some questions, and I'm hoping that we can kind of talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
So I want to highlight some of the strangest things that I found about the case. One, where's the record of the disappearance in the national park? There is a record, but again, it's in those records, those statements that officers have to write up. But there is zero record in any national forest database of the Key family and their claims and their sighting. So that does not exist in anywhere in federal government.
Which doesn't make any sense,
right,
on its own.
But there is written and video proof by the newspaper and by the local news station that Mr. Key went on and discussed this information. So there is proof that he was involved in the case, or at least a person that was giving up some information about the case.
Mm-hmm.
When Mr. Paulides tried to exercise the Freedom of Information Act specifically for this case, he was rejected multiple times and has never gotten any information from the federal government involving any information about this case. Now, the things that I really find interesting is the son of the Key family said that he saw a bear. Now, how do you misinterpret a bear for a man running on two legs? Now, I know we talked about David Paulides and not pushing the Bigfoot agenda in his missing 401 cases, but how does a boy see something and say that's a bear, and then someone else says, no, that's a man? Obviously, there's got to be hair on it. Now, there is some sort of answer for this. Any of you guys ever heard of the Tennessee Wildman?
Mm-hmm. From this case, I have.
Yeah, so apparently there's a group of people that live in the deep woods of Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains that run around with furs of dead animals wrapped around them, and they live like feral humans. There is documented attacks by these people on park rangers and guests visiting the Smoky Mountain National Forest, and that's extremely weird.
Yeah, they mentioned that the Park Service has not been able to control them either.
Yeah. Why is the FBI being brought in? I think the FBI only gets involved in missing person cases if
like
they're
kidnapping or something like that.
If there's foul play involved, right? If a cougar comes by, and I don't think the FBI gets involved in that.
That makes sense.
Well, this is federal land. This is their jurisdiction.
That's not necessarily the FBI's jurisdiction.
Yeah.
That's the Department of the Interior.
Every case I read, it's always FBI, FBI, FBI. So unless they're trying to push them out and take over so they can hide the stuff going on, I don't know. They're always there.
That's what's strange about most of this is Derek's right. A lot of this stuff has to deal with the FBI being involved. And this isn't necessarily part of their everyday job. Is this a Men in Black situation?
Dude, oh my God. I need to talk about this. I'm glad you brought it up.
My last question is, of course, why is the military involved in this case?
Not just this case either.
It's not just this case.
I said a few cases Green Berets have surprisingly shown up to join or take over the searches. It happened in 1971 in New York when an 8-year-old boy vanished while walking back to the lodge to change his clothes.
I've also heard about the Navy SEALs getting involved in some of these too on the West Coast.
The FBI getting involved, I mean, I can somewhat understand it. If the father finds that his son's missing, right, and he literally just saw him 5 minutes ago hide behind a bush and didn't see him move from there, and then all of a sudden he's gone, and he spends a couple hours searching for him, he's fairly certain that foul play in some way, shape, or form is involved, then I can see the FBI getting involved. I'm not sure what the threshold is for them to get involved. Like we said, it's federal property, federal jurisdiction. So maybe there is procedure for them to get involved on a regular basis. But it is kind of suspicious that, they got involved pretty much right away. Then there's military special forces coming in. But, to play devil's advocate, maybe they brought them in because maybe those special forces teams, they train in that area maybe. So maybe they know it better than most people.
They're doing a horrible job because none of those people were found.
Yeah, I mean, that is an excellent point that they haven't been found. So if they're not there to help, then what are they doing there?
To interrupt the search and cause them not to find it.
There's literal tons of times where, I won't say times, but other events or things happening where the government has done some really shady stuff, try to cover their tracks and whatnot. If obviously they're interfering with the investigation of this missing kid, obviously not telling the father pertinent information that is related directly to his son's missing case, what are they doing? It don't make no sense. Why they would leave out, this other family saw some man carrying something on his shoulder that was wearing a red shirt, which was what his son was wearing that day. That's a huge piece of evidence towards what could have possibly happened to him.
Yeah.
But the government has done a lot of shady stuff, and they have shown in multiple previous incidences. I mean, they've done all kinds of shady stuff and shown they have no regard for people's lives and whatnot. So I can see them not caring whatsoever.
I could understand the FBI thing if the FBI was coming in to disqualify the fact that there was foul play. But you brought up a good point. Why are they getting involved so quickly? Isn't the FBI normally called upon to act?
I mean, how quickly did they get involved?
I think they said it was the next day.
That's crazy. So they get a call that some kid is lost in a national park, right? Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that they would be like, why isn't the National Park Service handling this? Why isn't the park rangers out there helping look for this kid? It's a kid. It's 6 years old, right? How far could he have gotten? Like you said initially, when the father went running down that trail looking for his son, he ran roughly 2 miles. A 6-year-old kid isn't going to make it 2 miles. There's no way. Then all of a sudden the FBI gets wind of it, or they get notified or whatever, and then they're there next day. That is fairly suspicious when there's no concrete evidence that foul play is involved.
I'm itching over here. I need to talk.
Dude, I see it. Go ahead. You got give us some input.
Let me tell you how this all points to the government.
Go ahead.
You mentioned Men in Black earlier. I'm going to point to why I believe that this might be a thing.
Come on, man.
I
gotta find it. Hold on. Okay.
That could probably be a whole episode on its own.
Children found alive won't talk about their experience or say they don't remember what happened to them. Doesn't matter the age. So I understand a 2-year-old or younger not really understanding how to put in words what they saw or experienced because they're not really fluent in English or whatever language they're speaking. So I understand that is a thing. But the fact that they won't talk about it or they don't remember seems like some Men in Black flash, you don't remember what's going on anymore thing. They also have found in 98% of the cases they found with a fever and appear to be really traumatized but cannot talk about what happened.
Any child that's under the age of 10 or even 12, I would imagine, if they experience a traumatic event, I would find it very incredible if they were able to describe what happened to them in detail.
62% of cases where the child was able to speak, the FBI did not mention that in their reports of what they said.
Well, that in itself is very suspect.
Exactly. Also, what kind of puts me on the suspect of not really being an animal, in
Mhm.
all of the cases where the child is not found, the parents say the child was right behind them or within a few feet when they disappeared. If an animal is going to take your child, you're going to hear crinkling of leaves, you're going to hear sticks, a roar, movement. How does a
Well,
child just get snatched?
maybe. I mean, you also got to think about a lot of the predators that live in these forests and whatnot. Their skills and abilities have been honed over hundreds of years of evolution and whatnot, right? Like, they wouldn't be very good predators if you heard them coming. I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate there, but I mean, at the same time, you would expect the kid to like scream out or yell out if they got grabbed by an animal, right? If it wasn't an animal, if it was some person or maybe not a person, but like they saw this child, just thought it was a bear, but then their parent thought it said it, no, that's a man. Maybe they're smart enough to cover their mouth or whatever, keep them from yelling out, alerting anyone nearby.
95% of cases, bad weather follows the disappearance, washing out footprints and all other clues,
Hmm.
and making it impossible to carry out searches until weather clears. 98 to 99% of cases, tracking dogs are unable to find a scent or simply refuse to track it. Either they're planning, they're like, oh, it's going to rain real bad and there's going to be a storm or snow tonight or tomorrow. Let's go out
Okay,
there, take these people, and then they're not going to be able to find the footprints of us or the scent. The dogs are not going to be able to track the scent because the
that's saying that it's a human being taking the person though, like someone who like planned this ahead of time,
FBI.
right? That also, if we take into account that other family that saw this bear running up on two legs, what if it was something like the wild man or whatever, right? A lot of animals are able to sense when weather is incoming or whatever, or maybe it's just complete coincidence. Who knows? But
98%? 95,
I
sorry.
mean, looking on Wikipedia, it says that when that happened, they got 3 inches of rain, which is a ton. That's way more than enough to wash away anything scent or footprints and whatnot. Like I do environmental inspections for the local gas and electric company now that I'm out of the military, and I go out after it rains so much to do these inspections, and I can tell you that it doesn't take that much to really mess things up. That's a ton of rain.
95% having the weather after the incident that's pretty high. But I mean, these are national forests that you're talking about. Extreme weather is kind of built into the nature of these places. I know, especially in the Smoky Mountains, it's wet all the time. I personally have been
Mhm.
camping in Cherokee, North Carolina, part of the Smoky Mountains, and I mean, I don't think we had a dry day there in the week that we were there. And I've driven through there a couple times in my adventures. And again, I don't think I've ever been there when it's dry. It's super wet in the morning because the fog comes in. I think they have like a
Mhm.
daily shower all the time. 3 inches is a lot. That is. And it's probably a lot for up there too. But I mean, if
That's probably normal for that area.
it might be, another thing that's kind of really neat about the Smoky Mountains, or at least the area that I was in Cherokee, is that the hills there, I mean, it's not just a gradual hill, it is a sheer cliff. And you have trees that are coming out of this damn near 90-degree angle, just
Mhm.
going straight up. I think landslides has got to be a popular thing there. A lot of rain has to be associated with that. Now, one thing that Derek did bring up that I've seen a lot as a part of these cases is the fact that search dogs are unwilling to go into certain locations. There was one story on the documentary that's free on YouTube where a little boy, his clothing was found up on a mount or on a hill a year later.
Well,
Mhm.
Jared.
Jared. Yeah.
Yeah, I have his story right here.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. This is a good segue into that story. A year later, a couple of hikers actually found a shoe and his clothing and a piece of his skull cap. Right? Is that the right story?
3 years later.
3 years later.
He would have been 6 years old.
Okay. So 3 years later, a couple of hikers went up on top of a hill that search dogs refused to go up. They alerted,
The dogs wouldn't go.
the dogs wouldn't go.
They claim a person went up there a dozen times didn't see anything, and then 3 years later the body shows up. There's multiple stories where that happens, where they just appear.
That is a very normal thing with these missing 401 cases. What's really strange about it is that it all happens at national forests. It doesn't happen anywhere else. This is extremely strange that the hubs just happen to be in national forests. But anyways, he ended up being found. Derek, you want to go ahead and bring us in into Jared's story a little bit?
Yeah, so Jared, 3 years old when he went missing, he had gone the forest with his mom and her friend, I guess, and he was running around being a little 3-year-old, hitting sticks around. He went missing, and instead of going to look right away, they ran back to the dad, which I mean, I kind of understand, but you should have someone running around still.
Is this the one where the dad was in his house like 15 miles away?
Yeah, he did like 110 over there. He was
Yeah.
because they own the store, so he was like kind of laying on the couch. What kind of got me to this one? So I wrote down pissed off next to it. When they found the two hikers found him up on a ridge where he could not get to himself.
That was a very shocking part of that story. Now, they showed pictures in the documentary of that cliff, and there's no way a 3-year-old's getting up there by themselves.
Absolutely not. And then their like final verdict was that they said that like a mountain lion got to him. And even the dad said it best is his clothes were intact. The mountain lion's gonna go for the center stomach area, the most meat.
I mean, they're going to tear it apart.
His jacket was fully intact. His shoes were pristine white, so they didn't show as if they've been out there for 3 years. His clothes didn't show they've been out there 3 years.
And the shoes didn't show any drag marks.
Yeah, there was no scuffs at all.
He was obviously carried to where he ended up.
I think he was carried somewhere and then put back. The pants were found inside out. They had like bits and pieces ripped off of them, but they determined that was birds because it was in the nests everywhere.
I mean, possibly.
That I can understand.
But everything was intact.
How did they end up inside out?
Something took his clothes off.
The shoes were clean, right? There's no scuff marks. You think if somebody's getting dragged.
There's no wear and tear, no weather, decay of anything.
The people who found the shoe said that it was like the shoe was put there that day. And this is 3 years later. You'd think that this thing would be moldy and gross and
Oh, absolutely.
weather worn, just disgusting.
Moisture and whatnot.
Yeah, and then they find the pants. The pants are inside out. If a mountain lion, which I think is a big culprit in a lot of these cases, but if a mountain lion had attacked a 3-year-old, the first thing that they're going to attack is the back of the neck. That's just kind of where cats go. They go to the back of the neck and they suffocate you. You die, and then they take you up a tree or somewhere safe where they can safely eat you.
Feed. Yeah.
So they showed his jacket, and it had absolutely no damage to it. There was nothing to the collar area. There was nothing.
No blood, no hair, no DNA of any kind.
Nothing. It was like this kid was stripped naked, and his clothes were sort of preserved. Pants were in bad shape. But for the most part, like his jacket wasn't in terrible shape. His shoes were in fantastic shape, and he was just gone and found 3 years later.
The one thing that I tried to find, which I really wish was documented, was I want to know the age of his body when they found him. They found the skull and bones. Like, I want to know, was his body 3 years old or was his body 6 years old?
Like when he died.
Yeah.
Like whether it was around the time he was 3 or.
Because if he died at 3, that means that he died right away.
Yeah.
But if he died at 6.
That's true.
That's a good question.
I tried to find that. I searched everywhere. I tried to find it. I couldn't find it.
It would be obvious if he'd been alive for 6 months or a year past that point, because when you're that young, you're growing so quick.
I have 3 children, man. I can tell you the gap between 3 and 6, it's a huge difference.
I want to know if he was aging, if he was somewhere else doing something with somebody else. Yeah, I couldn't find anything if he was 3 years old when he was found or 6. And the weirdest part about the whole story is his father kept his skull.
Well, I mean, come on, man.
I mean, it's a little creepy.
It's a little
Let's
creepy.
be real.
I understand that's the last thing you have of your boy, but it's his skull, man.
I'm not here to judge anyone for their beliefs or what they want to do or how they want to, memorialize whoever, right? Because I mean, there's people that keep the ashes of their relatives or whatever, right? Keep them up on the mantle in their house. That's one thing. Maybe that's their way of doing the same thing. That's all they have left.
Cuts out of it to test the age, but
yeah, they did a bunch of DNA testing on it to make sure it was the kid.
They can find what age he is. I feel like that's so easy.
I'm really curious about that, whether or not they found a 3-year-old body or a 6-year-old body. That's a good point, Derek.
I dug deep, and I don't know if I couldn't find it. I mean, They said that he would have been 6 years old, but they never said what his
was
body
his name?
was. His name was Jared.
You could probably just look up Jared missing 411. It's on the documentary that's free on YouTube.
Do you have the last name?
Oh shoot, no.
It's piqued my interest enough that I want to look it up. Oh, Jared Adadero.
Yeah, that's the picture of him.
Found this one site called canammissing.com.
That's actually the website that is run by David Pilates.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it is. That's his website.
There's a whole section dedicated to Jared in that case. Towards the end of it, there's they talk about a few of the things that like don't make sense. Well, I mean, they talk about that kind of throughout, but there's quite a few things, and there's pictures, which was really helpful for me to like get an idea of since I didn't really do any research prior to this since I came in last minute. Pictures kind of showing where things were found.
Yep.
And it helps highlight how unusual the circumstances. And also one thing particular, so they found like his skull cap, right? And they also found a tooth. But where they found the tooth, it's just like chilling on top of a log, on top of pine needles, just like completely out and open. And like at first glance, looking at the picture, I didn't really think too much of it. He makes a point saying if that tooth has been sitting there for 4 winters, because it was almost 4 years since his disappearance to them finding his remains, or what little remains there was left besides the clothing. Like that tooth shouldn't just be chilling there on top of all the pine needles and stuff. There should be pine needles on top of it or something, It was really weird. And also all the clothes was found within, I think, a 25-foot radius is what they said. There's a picture of one of the shoes where it was found, and it's kind of like in like a little, like an open crevice, but it's not like protected from the elements where it's at. Multiple people, make comments about how vibrant the colors and whatnot were. You were talking about earlier, both of you. It doesn't look like it's been sitting there for 3, almost 4 years. It's in an area where they got a full 4 seasons. If anything, the colors should have faded. They also made comment that Jared never tied his shoes. The last place he was seen versus where they found his remains and clothing and whatnot, it's like something like 550 feet up the mountainside. Jared hated tying his shoes, like I imagine most 3-year-olds would. His father's like, there's no way like his shoes would have stayed on his feet if he got dragged up this mountainside. It's damn near like a sheer cliff. The hikers that found him, they said that they had trouble getting up that far, and they're experienced hikers. The clothing, I think you talked about how they got sent off for testing, and there was no blood, no mountain lion hairs or anything found on it. But there was some other type of hair found around the collar of his sweater. The lab never identified it. They said, don't worry about it, which was strange in itself, because if you're trying to figure out what happened to this child, of course you want to know what it is. Okay, you didn't find mountain lion hairs, but what are those hairs? What are they from? There's just a lot of inconsistencies. One thing you didn't bring up was in the beginning, Jared's father was trying to, he wanted to see where the last place anyone saw his son. He wanted to see that spot. And the search and rescue and sheriff's office told him that they would arrest him if he stepped foot on the trail.
See, I didn't know that.
I didn't see that either.
That's on the site that, what you said, David Pelosi or Pilates. So on the site, they talk about it. And also another interesting fact. So they had an article of clothing that was supposedly Jared's, right? That they were using to give the scent dogs like Jared's scent so they could help find him. Turns out that they weren't even using a piece of clothing that was Jared's. It was his father's shorts. And he actually brought that up. So I guess one of the head search and rescue guy that was leading the whole thing came in and was like, oh, I'm here to grab this bag that has an article of his clothing so we can give the scent to the dogs. And his father saw what they were using. He's like, those aren't his. Those are my shorts. And he was just like, obviously upset about it. Like, is this what you've been using this entire time? The head SAR guy was like, yeah. And he's like, how could you have not realized this is a grown man's pair of shorts?
Did you see these are 38 size waist? Come on.
Like Jared is a 3-year-old. He's incredibly small child, and then they're using these shorts. The head SAR guy threatened to call off the whole search right then and there because he said, why are you using my shorts? You're not even giving the dogs the right scent.
It's almost like they didn't want the dogs to find them.
Yeah. So there was like a lot of like inconsistencies throughout the whole process. When they found his remains and whatnot, it was as if they were placed there to be found. That's not where they were.
Where's the rest of his body? You said it was just his skull cap. Where's the rest of his skull?
Yeah, they never found any of his other teeth, never found his jawbone or any of his other remains. They never found his t-shirt or his underwear. And at one point, I guess when they gave the press conference that they found his remains, the sheriff's office had everything up on a board, like his clothing and whatnot that was found. And someone had turned the pants right side out, right? And his father was like, "Why would you do that? That's not how they were found." And the sheriff's office was basically giving him crap about it, like trying to play it off like, "Oh no, like we didn't know that." And he's like, "What do you mean you didn't know that? Like that was a very odd thing to find first place. What do you mean you didn't know about that?" Like it was very odd. But why they would try to like cover it up or threaten to arrest him, that was extremely odd. And they actually they tried to call the FBI to get them involved. And the FBI said that there was no evidence of foul play taking place, so they weren't going to come. They just outright refused to come out, right? But it turns out that a dozen previous cases that are like basically carbon copies of this, where a little child has disappeared, even though there was no evidence of foul play, the FBI still sent out like an agent or two just to be there, just in case maybe evidence was found that there was. And so they're like up to speed to a degree at that point. They need to bring in more people. But the fact that they just outright refused to even send one person out was odd in itself.
So did they say where Jared's story took place?
In the video, I didn't take note.
Yeah, Dennis Martin took place in the Smoky Mountains. I'm curious as to where Jared took place.
Colorado, I want to say.
Well, if you're in the mountains, Colorado, you're dealing with a lot of snow.
Well, that day there wasn't any snow. I think it might have been like the end of summer, fall time. Let me see. It was on the Big South Trail adjacent to the Poudre River in northern Colorado.
And they lived there.
Yeah, so the resort that Derek was telling us about earlier, or the store, whatever, like Jared's father owned that resort and store. And the group that took his son and daughter out on this hike was like a Christian group. That's why he let his children go along, because he knew the members of the group and they were staying at his resort.
Did you see that he also Jared talked to two fishermen and they noticed that he was lost?
Yeah, that's a strange thing.
The sheriff's office never told his father about that. He heard about that through the radio like days later. And then when he went to the sheriff's office to ask him like, what the heck is going on? They gave him more crap about it. Like,
so I think two things are involved here. I think it's more of a incompetent adult figure losing track of the child. He's by himself at the time that he's talking to the fisherman. He asked the fisherman, "Are there bears around here?"
Hold on, because I have 3 children, and I can tell you right now that it is not always the easiest to keep track of your children. You turn your head.
Based on the story, they weren't paying attention to him at all.
No, I get that.
The group that went to this trail, right, they ended up splitting into two. Some were slower, so they were behind, and then there was a faster group. There's confusion between which group was Jared with that we don't know. But when Jared talked to the fisherman said that they could see one half of the group like 50 to 80 feet down the trail. So they just figured, oh, this kid's just being a kid and just running ahead, because that's what kids tend to do.
Yeah, I don't know how they know this, but they said that he wandered off 100 feet before they noticed.
On this page, talking about it, I guess one of the head people of the group said that it had been almost an hour when they realized that when they realized that he wasn't there, that they were like, oh, we haven't seen him for like almost an hour.
I think that's what they said in the documentary too.
Yeah, and he was the youngest one in the group. I think you would want to keep a better eye on him.
I think they said that the group, there was 11 of them. I might not be 100% correct on that. Yeah, it's 11 kids, but I don't know how many adults there was. If you see one running way ahead, I feel like you'd be able to see that.
What I'm thinking is, because of the condition of his clothing, his shoes, the tooth, and everything, this sounds like an abduction. Something where somebody grabbed this child. I would hate to even think about what they did with that child for as long as they possibly did. If somebody had taken this child and held on to him for, years, and brought back his clothing and his body and laid it on top of that ridge, that just kind of sounds like the easy way to answer that. Now, being all the way up on top of that ridge, which is an extremely difficult hike, whoever had taken the child had to have been a pretty seasoned hiker. Let's talk about other things that it could have been. At 3 years old, how much does an average 3-year-old weigh?
From the pictures, it looks like he maybe weighs 40, 50 pounds soaking wet.
40 pounds, yeah.
Okay, so the average weight of a 3-year-old in the United States is 31.5 pounds. I know that some bigger birds, such as eagles, can carry up to 20-something pounds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it was a mountain lion would have no problem carrying that much weight in its mouth. Like mountain lions are massive and they are just like pure muscle, purpose built for grabbing whatever their prey and climbing up a tree or a mountainside with them.
Trying to answer all the questions with the no drag marks and all that other fun stuff, right? So, like, let's say a bird was able to grab them. And I'm only saying this because during one of the other cases highlighted in the Missing 411 documentary that you can watch on YouTube, it was theorized that a bird had snatched up a child. It made good sense. I think the child was 2 in that case.
I've heard of that happening. I haven't read anything specifically on it, but I have heard of that happening.
And you would think that if there are some larger raptor type birds, like an eagle or such, Colorado would be a place where you can find that.
At PAX, we saw bald eagles every now and then. Eagles are massive.
Yeah.
They're huge.
I'm curious as to what a full-size eagle can actually carry. I mean, I heard 20 pounds on the documentary.
I mean, on the topic of what could have happened to him, in this page talking about David Pilati talking to Jared's dad, Alan, about what happened, because his dad initially thought maybe he was abducted because they didn't find him right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how far could this 3-year-old have gotten by himself? The sheriff's office immediately was like, oh, there's no way it's an abduction. There's only one way in and out of this valley, and it's through this trailhead that they're on, right? But then Alan found out later on his own that there is like 3 or 4 different ways in and out of this valley. Whether the sheriff's office was incompetent or just blatantly lied to him, it's hard to say. I don't know. It's pretty incredible because his dad also talked to multiple like mountain lion experts, right? Because the condition that they found his clothes in and whatnot, there was no blood on them. They're pretty much intact except for the sweatpants, which was easy to explain as birds taking material for nests and whatnot.
Yeah, the materials were all over nests.
Yeah, if a mountain lion would have attacked him, I mean, we talked about earlier, it would have went for his stomach or his neck, right? But there is no tatters or nothing was torn there to indicate that happened. Also, they said that if a mountain lion would have taken him, it wouldn't have taken him very far. And, once he was noticed missing, people searching for him would have been yelling for him, causing a little bit of commotion. That probably would have scared the mountain lion off initially, right? And they said that mountain lions tend to bury their prey or whatever and then leave if they can and then come back for it later.
Also put them up in trees too.
Yeah, kid could have been right off trail and they would have never seen him. That's a possibility.
They wouldn't have smelled him either with the dad's pants.
Yeah, I mean, in the initial search in the first and second day, if you've ever been out hiking on trails or out in the woods or mountains like this, and someone says, "Oh, you see that?" and you're looking what are you talking about? I don't see. It's so hard to spot stuff, even if it's a bright fluorescent color. There's a whole subreddit devoted to it called "Find the Sniper" or whatever, and it's just oh, do you see this bird or do you see this animal or do you see this person? In some cases, they're not even wearing camouflage of any type and you can't see them, unless someone points exactly where they're at.
We talked about kind of the stuff that makes sense in the normal world, right? So let's talk about Bigfoot. David Pilates is this big Bigfoot guy, and a lot of people claim that he's just pushing his Bigfoot agenda. You guys think that a Bigfoot could have done something like this?
Sure. I mean, like I was saying earlier, a lot of these animals are purpose built through hundreds of years, thousands of years of evolution, right? Only the strongest survive, or the most capable ones that have adapted to how they live and hunt and whatnot. Who's to say a Sasquatch hasn't gone through? I mean, obviously it would have gone through the same process.
What is it? The Keys? Are they the ones that said about the bear/man, the kid?
That was during the previous story. That's not this one.
I know, but that would very well go along with the Bigfoot doing all the abductions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I've heard of any stories of Bigfoot abducting anyone. I've heard of stories of Bigfoot attacking, I guess, when they feel threatened.
Trying not to bring up other topics here.
Too off topic.
No. It's not necessarily off topic because it fits within the realm of what we're talking about, right? Yeah. And I'm going to try to find it. There is a famous case of a Sasquatch abduction where a Sasquatch took a man. I'm going to try to find the actual case.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Very old, and the only reason why the man escaped the family of Sasquatches is because the Sasquatch took the man's dip, like the tin
Oh,
of
and he got
dip.
sick. He got sick
Yeah,
from it, right? Yeah, I remember that.
he was eating the dip and he got sick, and he was able to make his way out. I'll find it.
The story I read, it was more than just one. It was like almost like a little family of
It
them,
was.
right?
It was a mother, a father, and 2 children.
The one got sick, and the others were tending to him, and that was his chance to slip away.
Yep. Wild story. It's an old one, but that's a wild one.
Did he track his way out of there to bring people back to it?
Oh man, I don't remember. You know what? I have it in my.
I feel like I read that in a book, like an old book I had, which was like what originally got me into all this stuff. It was some book that had like stuff about Bigfoot, the Bermuda Triangle, and like other crazy stuff like that. And that's what initially got me into all this stuff.
What originally got me into it is just seeing a damn Bigfoot.
Oh, what episode is that?
That was to Bigfoot or not to Bigfoot. Thanks for the plug, man. I appreciate that. But let's think about all the evidence from Jared's case. He's got perfectly clean shoes. He's got inside out pants. He's up on top of a cliff that would be hard for any normal human to climb. It is, I wouldn't say well documented, but is well thought of that Sasquatch have absolutely no problem climbing up steep terrain. They can easily carry a 3-year-old child, so the shoes wouldn't get messed up. The shoes would still be on his feet. Let's say that the Sasquatch even kept the child, like in that story where the guy had the dip tin and held on to him for a little while until he passed away. And where they laid his body was the closest point to where they had abducted him. I feel like the woo-woo side of me right now is thinking that if this isn't a man doing this, the next thing that makes the most sense is this mythological creature called Bigfoot, who is just an oversized human with the same dexterity as us.
Well, one thing that I would say pushes against it being Bigfoot is the fact that the clothing and the shoes and whatnot was found where it was found and basically in pristine condition besides the sweatpants, right? Why would a Bigfoot care about that?
In the Bigfoot or not the Bigfoot episode, we talk a little bit about Sasquatches being a bit more intelligent than, a lot of people think that they could be. They are a great ape, and that comes with a little bit of intelligence. A lot of primates have this sort of ceremony, and it's different for all different kind of primates, but they recognize when their own are dead. I mean, who's to say that if a Sasquatch had kidnapped a child and taken care of that child, that part of the ceremony of the death of that child isn't to bring the body back to where they found it, including all of its belongings. It may be a stretch for some people to think, but again, we don't know anything about these creatures.
Yeah.
The biggest evidence we need is that boy's age when he died.
I agree.
On one of the pages I found, there was a video of the father showing the skull, and he's kind of explaining why he still has it. Like we were talking about earlier, it does seem a little odd that he's just keeping the skull, but his explanation of it was like it's the only thing he has, what's left of him, right?
Yeah.
That was the only thing they found. They didn't find the rest of his remains besides one tooth. So like watching that video, I was like, I understood. You could clearly see his pain when he's talking about it. And I can't judge him for keeping part of his son's skull because that's all he has left. I'm not there in his shoes grieving the loss of his son.
I mean, he would be in his mid-20s now.
He would be 24, at least at the time of that
article. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that last article was 2014. I can understand why he kept it.
We've been on Jared for quite a while.
It's an odd case.
It is. It's extremely thought-provoking, and I think it definitely warrants some more investigation. Well, I think that this is a natural spot to end episode 1 for Missing 411.
Right at the end of Jared's story, yeah.
It works out pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to get together again next weekend, we can pick up on part 2.
Yeah.
Next weekend?
Yeah. What's wrong with next weekend?
I have a whole story on Diane I want to talk about.
We can talk about Diana next weekend, bud.
Don't you look up Diane. I'll tell you.
Okay. All right, guys. So that's the end of part 1. We're going to reconvene in a little less than a week, and we'll record part 2, and we'll make this episode a 2-part because we still got a lot left to go. I know Derek is over there wiggling, trying to get this Diane story out. So we'll come back and we'll learn a little bit about Diane and a couple of other cases of missing 411.
Yeah, 6 more stories.
6 more stories. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, I appreciate you guys coming on today. Like always, it's always a pleasure, guys.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. If you'd like to comment on this episode, you can do so on facebook.com/Infinite Rabbit Hole. If you have a story to share with us or would like to be interviewed, you can contact us at infiniterabbithole@gmail.com. Thank you again, and have a great day.
Dude, I don't know if we could post this.
Why not?
Let's talk about our people, man.
We're about.
I told you last night when I was digging deep into this. There was a van outside. They were watching me. The light on my camera was on. I'm not even joking because I have a light right next to my camera right here. So I was sitting here. I was like,
We saying the FBI turned the light on?
my agent. I was talking to him. I was like, "What's up, dude? Can you stop hiding this stuff, please?" Like, I was talking to him.
That's when you just say some crazy stuff.
Why would my light randomly turn
taking
on?
Headset off, like. Well,
I'm telling you, I was DMing him because if I'm watching, I got deep. I got so deep into this shit. I turned that light, the little white light right here, turned on. I was joking about the van. But my light turned on, so my camera turned on. Someone was watching my camera.
I mean, the government has been caught doing that in the past, but that doesn't mean that's necessarily the government every single time, because there are.
I'm taping my camera.
Can't tape your camera, guy. We need it.
I don't need this. We're not posting visuals.
You're right.
You might be able to put all that on the bloopers end.
All right. So,
can I talk about Diane, please? Either they have some weather controlling technology that we don't know about, or
dude, you're such a nut, bro. I love it.
I mean,
you put me so far down a rabbit hole. I'm gonna blow your minds.
I've heard about reports of like the government having an ability to control weather.
I mean, when I was 6 years old, my dad told me that smokestacks, when they're putting out the smoke, he told me those are cloud makers.
Can you
I looked like an
damn it?
What?
Jesus Christ.
I looked like an idiot in middle school when I told everybody that I was a cloud maker. I was like, if you don't want it to rain, then stop making clouds. I was stupid. Okay, I know, but yeah. What also kind of grabbed my attention? It says 98.
Hold on. Jeez, man.
I need to talk about all this stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
I have 4 pages of stuff.
Okay, we need to conversate, man. Hold on a second. Damn.
This is going along with his stuff.
There. All right, go ahead. Go.
No. I'll mute myself. I'm done. Bye.
You're a child.
You sent me down this rabbit hole, and now you're trying to pull it away from me. I have goosebumps right now, and I need to talk.
Can you, dude, get off your pop filter? You look like an idiot.
What?
You're laying on your pop filter, guy. What are you doing over
What
there?
the hell is a pop filter?
That's the thing you're laying on.
Oh, okay.
Jeez.